back to Calling All Beings. I'm your host, DJ, with my man, the co-creator of Calling All Beings, Money Nathan.
What's up, everybody? Good to see you. Happy Saturday.
Yeah, brother. Who's below you right there? I recognize that flower. That is none other than one of the original gangsters, a study of UAPs, Debs.
I'm here. No.
And to Deb's immediate left, who just had both hair and nails done. Put them together for Boston Beer.
Hi, everyone. Happy Saturday.
What's up, Bia?
Oh, Nathan, if you would, before we intro, could you tell me about how you discovered these guests tonight that we're going to enjoy?
Well, I will. So thank you for that. You didn't get your hair and nails done, did you?
No, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, maybe next time. I had the good fortune of meeting a gentleman a couple of years ago, actually, and Deb was there as well. I was in Roswell, and I was on a family vacation, and I was down there for a curiosity. Had never been to Roswell before. Took the whole family. There was a little convention thing happening, and I met a guy there named Jared, and Jared was super friendly, really nice, and he talked to me after one of the talks. Came up to me and spoke to me about his interest in contact modalities and initiating contact, like through CE5 or through human initiated contact, or HICE. And he also had a strong interest in the research aspect of it. So he was really trying to come up with some studies, a scientific approach to studying kind of states of the brain that could be observed when the orbs might appear or the sightings might occur in sync with the person, the practitioner, trying to connect with the phenomena. And I thought that was really, really fascinating. And then I just kind of I followed Jared at that point and kept up with them, and just found him to be a really genuine, awesome guy. And so I had been meaning to get this show together for quite a long time. I messaged him months ago. And it's like, hey, let's do this show. Really want to have you on. Bring whoever else you want to bring. We want to talk about this kind of stuff. We've never had a show specifically on C5 or HICE. We've had James Andoli on the show, of course, who is a practitioner, and he knows that stuff really, really well. But we've never really had a panel on it. So I thought that'd be really cool to do. And nobody would know better than the people to invite than Jared. So reached out to Jared. He said, I've got the people you need to have on the show. He listed off some names. We've got all those folks with us this evening. Very excited to have them. We don't have Jared though, so he did a bait and switch. No, Jared has gotten sick, which that happens. We've all been there. I've been there. You plan something in advance, and your body just has other plans. So his voice is gone. He's been sick this week, so he's not going to make it. But I told him if he's feeling up to it, he should jump in the chat, because he did say he has some questions for his colleagues. So I hope we do see him in the chat and asking those questions, because I would love to know what he wants to know. So with that said, I will introduce the other individuals that we have with us this evening. And I know they're not on screen yet. Do you want to put them on? Do you want to do the intros? How do you want to do it?
Well, one thing I think we should listen to real quick is we're going to talk about HICE is this. So let's just do it real quick. Here we go. Okay, we're good.
That's very. I don't think it's the same. It's not exactly the same as that.
But look
it does
at Krys.
set.
She's digging it.
It does set the mood. And I love it.
Put your hands together for Krys.
What's up, Krys?
Okay.
Hey,
sorry, Deb. What
you
saying,
didn't
Deb?
expect that one.
I attract aliens. It will work.
Yes. Yeah, it might attract aliens. You're right. It might. So, Krys, I want to read a short little bio about Krys here. She provided this to me, and I think it's really excellent. So, Krys is a UAP experiencer, researcher, and Navy veteran. exploring human-initiated contact and the role of consciousness in engaging non-human intelligence through her upcoming project called Unearthed. So to ask about that, want to know about that. And that will examine the unknown through a non-linear framework. My intrigue is really going up here, of personal excavation. She's also known for her past work as the co-host of the Elephant in the Room podcast, which I recall seeing in the community. So she's a former podcaster, really big in this subject, and we're excited to have her with us. Welcome, Krys.
Krys Devine! Welcome.
Happy to be here. Thank you guys for inviting me.
Thank
Great to
you.
have you
Can you
with
do a
us.
little more HICE?
Get hype.
I
for
can
us.
always,
That's right.
yeah, so don't
Just
worry
like
about that.
Love it.
All right, so
So let's get up on the screen next our boy Lucas here. So Lucas, welcome. So Lucas, before I talk a little about him, I want to say he has one of the most interesting Twitter handles, X handles that I've run across. He goes by Ahawktopus, which I think is awesome. So if you want to follow Lucas on X, find him at Ahawktopus, like the bird, but also like the octopus. And Lucas is a practicing animist and operational psychic. He's formerly worked for ENEA as a study monitor and tasker for RV studies, former psionic asset with Skywatcher, and current co-founder and chief scientific officer of the Telepathy Center, which you can find at thetelepathycenter.com. So great to have you with us, Lucas. Welcome.
Thank you. So awesome to be here and meet everyone. I've definitely seen a few episodes and followed Krys. This is awesome to be here. Thank you.
Excellent.
Oh, and I think we're almost connected with John. Okay, so I think what he's having right now, I believe he's probably using a phone. And what he'll need to do is if you didn't accept the microphone and camera right away, we'll get this icon on screen. Can you see that, Nathan? Where it says they will need to connect their mic and cam before you can add them.
I do see devices not connected. I think that's all I see.
Yeah, so there's a little bubble there. If you hover your mouse, you'll see it, and over it. And he's probably going to need to restart his phone, and then try to re-add StreamYard. It'll ask him he's probably using a phone, I would say,
Okay.
and he's got to allow mic and cam. What's interesting, like I have just off of your intro, Lucas, I have a bunch of questions. Especially because you got to work with Skywatcher, and they just blew up the community last year because you have this mixture of special forces guys that are working with psionics like yourself, and bringing a legitimacy to maybe military or government types that wanted to dismiss this as being just fantastical and, tinfoil hat ness, if you will. And having the two of you come together and then maybe people who were skeptical of working with anybody who had any interactions with the government or worked in concert with the government. So this is really, really interesting. What was it like that coming together there between you and let's say Mr. Barber and company?
Yeah, it was interesting. Like you said, it's kind of a mashup of practitioners and then the government and scientific side that I don't know has been attempted really in public, at least before. It was great. I mean, I had a fantastic experience out there. We went out and did our normal practice. We meditated, we communicated, we channeled, we did everything we normally would do, just under the context of being watched in a scientific setting and seeing what really we can detect while we do it.
Wow. And so they were impressed with you and you were impressed with them, essentially?
I hope I impressed them.
Sure
Yeah,
you did.
I had a good time. I had a great time out there. Yeah, it's we've made so many great connections and met so many great people through that experience, and it's really propelled me to do what we're doing right now. So yeah, and
Yeah,
Jordan,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Jordan Jozak was out there with Skywatcher. He's my co-founder at the Telepathy Center. So we're all here still working.
Excellent.
And Krys, can you tell us just a little bit? tell the audience, and let me just say hello, mods and audience. We're really, hey, Jay Boogie's here. He was our guest last week. So welcome, Ruthie, everybody in the chat. We're delighted that you're here. And we're going to learn about these folks because Nathan essentially is the only one that really knows their backgrounds. And John, yeah, ask him check the Wi-Fi settings too, make sure what he's connecting to, because I've seen this happen with cellular before. Krys, can you sort of tell us a little bit about you and how you got into this? You're, as you said, you're a U.S. Navy veteran. So how did you get into this?
Well, frankly, my veteran status has little to nothing to do with the getting into UAPs, except for the fact that early on, I had heard of two incidences. One of a airline pilot flying over New Mexico, which I'm from, and in Clayton, and this is in 2021. I believe the article came out in March. And I recognized Clayton because that's where my mother was from. And I just stood out to me that I screenshotted the article, set it aside. Then shortly after that, George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell, I call them my gateway drug to UAP because they were covering the actual, the Navy ships and the Navy vessels over San Diego. I lived in San Diego at the time. Of course, I was former Navy. My husband's former Navy. He was actually on the Princeton. So those things.
Wow.
But not at the time. Not at the time.
I was be like, oh, holy
sorry,
pyramid
no.
Batman.
But,
no, Princeton was 2004. That was the Tic Tac. Yeah. Okay, got it.
Yeah, we were back in the 90s. This is a long time ago. I mean, this 34 years ago. So yeah, anyways, bottom line is in 2021, and this is kind of the work I'm doing, is the fact that I think sometimes it's difficult for me anyway, and I think I've heard from others, to kind of unpack or unearth their story, because I'm not sure I really recognize the difference between an invitation or an initiation. So the initiatory event was July 4th, 2021, where it kind of really opened my worldview. However, I was inviting prior to that. And my first experience was me hearing about somebody, expressing gratitude, meditating. I attempted it. And I edited this part of my story for many years. It's where I stood over the canyon in my backyard after I meditated. Didn't see anything at that point, but I felt an impression of numbers enter my mind. And kind of just like a vague message, because I was overlooking a church across the way, and something to do with like, this has to do with this. And then that was in May of 2021. By July, the appearances started, and then they turned into daily sightings for many years, and pretty much every day I see something. So that's the background. So I didn't really know I invited. I did, but I don't know how to explain it. There's this disconnect there, and that's why I think there's these layers of nonlinear time. I also have many childhood experiences I won't talk about now, but it's connecting the dots. And so, like many in the true crime, like you talked about earlier, you're in a true crime. That's what my project is about, is unearthing and investigating and excavating our own story and why it's meaningful to have these experiences.
Amazing. I love that. So I definitely want to get into that, because the non-linearity, I think, is a really critical piece. I want to set the stage for some of our listeners and our audience here who may not be as familiar with the subject at hand. And so what I think most people, when they think of an alien or an extraterrestrial or an encounter with a non-human entity, they think of a sighting, right? They think of I saw a craft, or I saw a being, and it sort of happened to them maybe by accident, or sort of, it may feel that way. They were just in the right place at the right time. Boom, there it is, amazing. And then they go on and tell that story. In many cases, it changes their lives. But there are many other individuals who maybe that has happened to, but who have also decided to seek out contact through intentionality, through putting out with their intention, with their mind, a need or a want or a desire or a signaling. And there's a lot of different words we could use here to connect with whatever this might be. And as you mentioned, Chris, there's kind of there are different ways in which people go about this. Expressing gratitude is certainly a common theme. Putting yourself in the right set and setting is also a big part of that as well. And so I wanted to say that because many people just may not be familiar that there are lots of folks who do practice one of these modalities, these contact modalities, and they have results. They do get sightings of anomalous objects in the sky, not just in the sky, but they probably also have anomalous incidents happen to them in their lives. And we might cite here things like synchronicities or other odd phenomena that may not be traditionally bucketed into the UFO sighting, but are sort of associated with that intentional act, with that intentional sort of throwing that energy out into the world. And so I wanted to kind of set the table there, and then I want to invite you guys. Please tell me, and maybe we'll start with you, Lucas. What is your conception of this kind of contact modality? How did you get into it? How do you think about it now? Has it changed at all from when you first started practicing it?
Yeah, it's definitely changed. I I think like you said, there's so many different ways to talk about it. The terminology around things gets tricky, and people don't always know what you mean by the words you use. Um, and that's where I think a lot of misunderstanding has happened, and it's hard to talk about these things because we don't have a good framework just to speak about them. Um, but I think that you said something. A commonality between a lot of practitioners is the gratitude or approaching with love. Um, and I think that speaks to the difference between a lot of people's success and failure with this. Is when you described it, you talk about reaching out with your mind, and I don't really think that's it. I think it's you're reaching out with your heart, and so when you get into a gratitude state, you're automatically reaching from your heart. And so I think it's a natural progression when you really let go and start. That's the thing is a lot of the practices, meditative practices, different esoteric practices, are all about letting go of ego. They all converge on the same principles, really, and it's all about stepping back and letting go of expectation and just approaching with love. And I think that's really the key to all of this is just letting go of your expectation. Society puts so many boxes around our thinking. Um, you, there's just so many things that happen to you as a child, even. That's what I think, when people talk about they lose these abilities and different, visitations or experiences as they grow older. I think it's because you get convinced that these things aren't real, and then that possibility goes away for it to happen because you told yourself it can't happen. And it gets back into something Chris said with the time not being linear and retrocausality. And I mean, I think all of this stuff really makes sense altogether if you really break it down.
Hey, Nathan, if I could piggyback on yours, when you say love, can you speak of love of what? Where is that the energy that is love? Where is that directed?
Was that for Nathan?
No, that's for you. I'm piggybacking on his question, stealing, essentially
Yes.
borrowing his question, because you mentioned that when you release expectation and project love, where is that projected at the entities? Where is that projected?
Inward. I mean,
Inward.
I don't.
Oh, interesting.
I go very deep inward before there's any outward thought at all. Um, I think you've got to accept yourself fully, all your flaws, all your past, mistakes, what we call them, that got you to this place, wherever you're at right then, and and hopefully right then is when things happen and things change for you, and you have a new understanding of the world you're living in.
Very important. Where do you want to go now, Nathan? You want to go to Deb's?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's make some room for that. Actually, before we do that, let's do a quick audio check for John. John,
hi, John.
Can you hear us and can you speak? Maybe not.
He's like, I'm nonverbal. I'm projecting my thoughts.
We're gonna
What's
connect
wrong
with
with you?
John. We're gonna connect with John energetically, which is
Okay.
all good.
Okay.
Hang in there, John. And if you have any issues or trouble, DJ mentioned that sometimes it's cellular service. Try switching to Wi-Fi. If it's not the Wi-Fi, you could try switching to cellular. Maybe we'll have more luck there. And if all else fails, find us on YouTube and join the chat. We'd still love you to be a participant in the audience and chatting and asking questions. So yes, I will pass it over to Deb because you know Deb's got questions. Deb, go for it.
Yeah, I think it's really important for people to understand the history of this. Obviously, if you've studied the esoteric, you know that humans for centuries have been trying to reach out to whatever is in the sky in a various with various techniques. But the term C5 specifically has a history, and HICE is sort of an evolution from that. So I was wondering if you guys could speak a little bit to that history and clarify it for people who are listening.
Yeah,
Is
why
that
don't we give
John or
that?
Lucas?
Let's give that one to Chris if she doesn't mind.
Chris, right?
Nope,
Yeah.
let's not give it to Chris. She's saying big time no on that. So let's go to Lucas. Lucas.
Well, to be honest, I don't know like the modern heist protocols very well. I practice from esoteric teaching, so I can't really compare them that well. I know that they, from what I've seen, they align very, very closely. That's it. I first started or like reading. I think the first magic books I really started reading or esoteric type teaching was an Aidan Wachter book, and he kind of approaches from a mixed view of all of these ancient traditions anyway. Um, and so I think my introduction was kind of not, going to one tradition or anything and kind of looking for the through lines at the beginning. And so that's where I've gotten my practice is just realizing where they all kind of converge and then building my own around it. But yes, there's a deep history in these practices. There's the Eastern traditions are fantastic. I mean, there's so many good ones out there.
Deb, if you have a follow-up, you can go after it, or we'll go to Boston Bia.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we find that connects to this, if anyone's interested, is the out-of-body experience. It sort of borders on this topic. So I was wondering if you guys have also explored that, just out of curiosity.
Yes, my favorite book, like right now, for that subject is Astral Dynamics. I think it's by Robert Bruce. It's one of Monroe's partners when he was developing that system. But it's like it goes into a lot of like the normal techniques you would read about, but then he also has like a very haptic system to kind of get you jostled out of your body, which I think a lot of people have. It just gives a lot of options for people instead of trying to, again, just say this is the way to do it.
Yeah, and Chris, and you look like you wanted to jump in on that too. So what? No.
I would just say that I definitely researched it, obviously, and know of many people that I've spoken to who either attempt this on their own or have experienced it on their own at different points in their life. I personally don't. I have not. It's not that I haven't attempted. I have not reached that level. I guess I don't want to. I know. I think for me, what this whole thing has done is expose my like really extreme neurodivergency, my ADHD over decades that really was unaddressed and self-medicated with alcohol for many years. And I quit drinking in 2019. And then 2020, of course, you know how that was. I was a healthcare leader for 30 years. So I was running large clinics and, specialties and things. And then 2020 hit. And I'm tying this in because I think it's really important is that for me, my out of body experience, it was not that, or I even sometimes call it a near death experience. It was not a literal one, but it was one night on my back deck prior to all of this happening. I was at a collapsing point in my life from work, some things going on in my, you know, my career, my marriage, my household, my kids, my son, father-in-law died or hadn't died. I apologize. He had a stroke and they had to go care for him. I had mammograms going on. So, you know, just that everything at once. That to me was a precipitous to the events in a way. And so this out-of-body experience that I'll say I have or had was on the back deck one night. It was like in a negotiation with, I don't know, myself, essentially, Lucas. I think that's kind of what you're talking about, where I remember saying, it wasn't like I wanted to die by any means, but I was like done, checked out, and needed some sort of solution. But in that moment, I said, I choose this timeline and I choose this family. And so it was very real to me, like a distinction. And I had never even really heard about near-death experiences to this level or whatever. So I'll leave it there at that for this. But that is my experience, is that I'm also very analytical in some ways, so was much more materialistic. So those experiences had to be concrete for me for a while. So moving into meditation is a whole nother world. To calm me down and get me to my default mode network is a challenge. But they're working with me to do it, and it's been happening. So
Awesome.
Do you mind if I chime in about something? So one thing that sort of ties these two questions together is that historically people have wanted to make contact, and they understand innately that they have this ability, either because they've had their own out-of-body experience, or they've had some telepathic experience or something. But the concern that I have, and I wanted to make sure people understood this, is that some people sell protocols for HICE. Be very careful about that. It's unnecessary to purchase that experience. It is a human experience, and many people have it. That's all I wanted to add real quick.
100% agree.
I agree as well. I mean, I literally just went out and tried to be grateful. I mean, that sounds so bad, but when you're in that dark of a moment and you try to be grateful and the world switches for you, anyone can do that.
That's a wonderful message. Bia, you know, I've been looking to have an out-of-body experience, because then maybe I'll find a better one than the one that I have.
Oh, geez.
All right, tough crowd.
Tough crowd.
Tough crowd.
Stick to what you're doing. Anyways, Krys, my question is for you. You were mentioning that you were signaling. So what exactly were you trying to experience, I guess, is my question. What were you hoping to get out of signaling, and what type of experiences were you looking for?
I mean, I think at this point it was simply like to see a UFO, you know, really, because everything at this point was still nuts and bolts to me. Even the act of going out and meditating I didn't connect consciousness or any of that at all. I'm a very black or white person. I used to say black and white, but I was just black or white. But so I just think I was intrigued. There's UAP in San Diego. They're over the ocean. I'm living in San Diego. Yeah, I would love to see something. And then, and that's when I started connecting actually on Twitter with like Jared, and it's somewhere around this time, Jared and Shane and a bunch of us, I call us the 2021ers, but you know, I just started going crazy researching what is happening to me, you know, and it wasn't, like I said, until July that I had my first knowledgeable one. But then I can go back actually to 2013. I found photos, still photos, time stamped in a trip to Bakersfield of objects forming in front of us. None of us have any memory of that at all. And I mean, they're from an old camera that broke, by the way. And I found that I needed more footage, more space to record my current UAPs. And I dug that old camera out, and then I found UAP on that camera. It gives me goosebumps. I mean, like, the world is just, and then I go back, as a child, I had nightmares. So my thing is dreams. That has been my childhood thing. I've always had precognitive dreams. I used to be terrified of UFOs as a child. I didn't want to have anything to do with them. And I used to think they would be invading us, and I would see our warplanes at war with them. Those were my dreams.
Wow.
Now my reinterpretation, I don't know answers to anything. I'm not here to say that. But in my worldview, I would like to believe that they're not quote unquote invading. And I also have a sense that we would be reacting that way. And it would be more of our reaction to them, because none of my experiences have truly been, they've all been uplifting and light for me and progressive. I have gone through very dark times in my life because you're unfolding your ego, right? You're seeing yourself for who you are and who you've hurt and what you've done. But to me, these things have led me down a journey of enlightenment. And, you know, that's just my experience. And I think it's important to share that side of it because there's a lot of dark messages out there. And I came from a Christian worldview. My husband and I were pastors. We taught in the church, you know, and so I understand the nuances to this topic. And I think people should explore and be careful, cautious, discerning, but don't pay for things like Lucas said, you know. Anyway, I'll stop there. Sorry.
That's a good, I mean, Nathan, that could be one we could come back to, is the confluence of religion and the study, or even the connection, to the degree, the connection with UFOs. That's something maybe we can revisit. But Bia basically got my question, so I'm going to go on to something else. Nice one, Bia. I'd like.
I was reading your mind.
You were, man. Bia, you didn't tell. Okay, all right. So I'm going to direct this one to Lucas and then Krys. But I'm curious, when you make the connection, it could almost be like when Earthlink, you'd hear all those bloop, 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 you know. Remember back when we had dial-up? When you make the connection, what kind of feelings or thoughts are you receiving? Are they different on the day, or what happens in your mind when you establish that connection? If you could take that, Lucas, and then Krys, please.
Yeah, I mean the specific like thoughts or pushed thoughts or whatever you would call them, definitely change from, you know, connection to connection. But typically it's very similar to like what people would experience before an out of body experience, where you feel like an intense sense of love, like overwhelming. It's really hard to describe. It's a feeling, but it feels like so innate and from deeper within you than any other feeling has come from. Like it's a very specific feeling when you like know, you know, the connection has been made. And I like in a like a out of body experience, that is not the same because you're, you know, floating around and doing things and flying around. So like that's a completely different experience. But like during that, if going out and trying to meditate and make a connection and see if something will show up, for me, it's always preceded by like that overwhelming sense of love. I call it love, but because there's no other better word, but
Sure.
it isn't specifically that feeling. It's something deeper. But that's typically almost 99% of the time that's what comes before it.
So Lucas, what I've heard from like Dan Sherman and others, you know, Dan Sherman did that book Way Above Black. He did something similar, or at least analogous to what you're doing, and you actually may be able to kind of frame what he was doing for us. But the richness of the communication cannot be described with words, because the highest form of communication that we have, generally speaking, is it with the mass populace, is words back and forth, and this communication is deeper and broader that words can't encompass it. Is that fair, or am I?
That's exactly it. I think this gets into a very interesting concept, which I actually was doing a very deep dive on with my AI with today. It's like it reminds me of the movie Arrival. That the language that they taught the humans that allowed them to think outside of time and think differently. I think that is a very very on point, because English and any language that we have really locks you in to ways of thinking, and it just poses possibilities off again.
Yeah, that we haven't just evolved to that level of communication yet that they've mastered, if you can master communication. So that's fair. So Krys, like when well, first of all, let me do a comm check with John, and let me tell the audience that because if we're not able to get John and Jared in tonight, then you can be assured we will book them together as soon as possible and do another one of these. So if you don't get to hear them, don't worry. We're going to do it again. So John, comm check, can you hear us? And if you can't, as Deb said earlier, you can post in the private chat and we can get you in there. And in any case, if you're not able to communicate verbally or through psionics tonight with the rest of the panel and the audience, then we will have you and Jared back. So there is that. Go ahead, Krys. When you first make, oh, there's John. Okay. Yeah, I can't see her here. I just ran to like 5 restaurants. Yeah, this is typically what happens. I've had this happen in public, sometimes using even, unless you have like a solid 5G, or if you're on a Wi-Fi that's kind of dialed down for public use, sometimes it doesn't work. But I promise you, you can, when you're home, absolutely jump in. And if we don't get you, then we'll just rebook you with Jared, and that'll be just fine. So, Krys, connection made. What does that feel like? Is it like Lucas or a different experience? Oh, she's on mute. Bloop, 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 bloop. I could yell. She's in New Mexico. I'm in Colorado. I could just yell and she'll hear me.
No, I'm in Arizona now.
Oh, you're in Arizona.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna have to yell louder. I'm sorry. Yo, Adrian, I did it. Go ahead.
Okay, so what I will say, honestly, it's pretty different than that. And I didn't really get a somatic experience with it's not that I haven't ever. I feel joy. I feel like a response, I would say. And what I tell people, especially when the daytime sightings started, because those started in February, like February 8th or 9th of 2022. And the first one I saw, actually it started in May of 2021, but I didn't know. Another story where I found an old video where I captured it. But February 2022, the daytime orb was at like 3:11 p.m. So for me, it was like, I made a connection to the time. And then the next day I went back and it was there again. And then they were there again. And it was a daily thing between 3:11, 4:11. And so it was, I tell people I grew up in New Mexico. I grew up hunting. I grew up fishing. I grew up in the outdoors. And for me, it was like going out to spot an animal, just literally non-emotional, but expecting I am going to see this thing at this time. It's their pattern. And I don't know why that was for me the way it was, or is. Again, I think maybe my neurodivergency separates some of my emotions from my analytical side a little bit. My emotions come more when I'm doing the self work.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's that actually, like that track, like if I just go out and seeing something, it doesn't come with that same overwhelming.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
I was just talking about when I purposely
So
draw.
you purposely, yeah,
for sure.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Very interesting. I mean, this is what you would expect from humans. Different, similar modality, different experiences associated.
Yeah.
Money, Nathan.
Yeah, I want to go a little deeper here on some of the things that we're talking about, because I think it's really important that those of us who are unfamiliar with what you're discussing get a little more familiar. And so what I want to do is paint a picture of sort of where we are now, I think, in the public conversation with the UAP topic. We've been in this for a while now, several years, certainly not as long as many, but longer than some. And we have seen the evolution of the public conversation and interest in UAP take place in real time. I mean, DJ and I, when we started podcasting, it was, there there was interest, but it was very niche. Politicians really weren't talking about it. There wasn't a task force. There certainly weren't messages from the president saying that there was going to be this release of information. And so we continue to see in the public conversation and the media conversation interest in this topic. The political interest is, I think, very keen and is continually noted as being one of the most, if not the most, bipartisan topics on Capitol Hill, which I think is very, very interesting and telling. If there's not a political win to kind of score points on the opponent, like in normal politics, this doesn't have that. It's just a mutual interest in the subject. So we're seeing a lot of momentum here in I think this area, but what I want to go to here is that for most people, the idea of disclosure and the idea of encounter is very much the traditional close encounters of the third kind, or worse, right? It could be Independence Day. There are a lot of these traditional ideas about what it might mean to have contact with a non-human intelligence. What you guys are both talking about and practicing is something far different than that, and I think points to, I hope you would agree, I think you would, these deeper aspects of reality that our society, and I want to say mostly our global society, is not, we've lost the muscle memory on how to do this, right?
Yeah.
And so we've become so materialist and so fixated on that way of experiencing the world and ourselves, that to encounter phenomena like this and to attempt to connect with it is literally like learning a foreign language that maybe our ancestors would not have struggled with in much the same way. And I find this to be both frustrating because it's difficult to try to train people into how to do this, uh, but it's also something that everyone, that if you really get them talking, they've had a weird experience, right? And so we're in a way raised to deny aspects of our humanity that we know to be true, but have been told to ignore. And so what do you see as a pathway to get our society from where we are now in thinking about this encounter and this disclosure and this, this very materialist way of experiencing reality, toward something that might be more effective and genuine and wholesome? And I mean that not in a feel good way, but in a holistic way, and embracing who we are as human beings and what reality truly is. So, Lucas, do you want to take that first, and then I want to go to Krys?
Yeah, I mean, that's really the whole mission of the Telepathy Center. Is what we've got right now is kind of a three-tiered structure of hopefully helping educate about what you're talking about, where all these ancient cultures knew how to do these things and practice them as a normal part of life. And then the next tier up would be like theories and frameworks that may connect the above system that I've got, which is all the published studies that prove, the things that we're talking about in lab data, all the remote viewing studies that SRI did, all the follow-up studies. I mean, there's thousands of them. If you can just pull from like Radin's book, most recent book, I mean, he cites one every other sentence, it seems like. But that's the thing, the data is already out there. It's not like it's not been studied. And so that's exactly our goal, is to hopefully give a framework, and then the next thing that'll be released on the website is the actual tools that they've used in these studies, in lab settings will be put on the website, so anybody can go and do Zener card sessions or a remote viewing session or retrocausal sessions. Each decision RNG call, there'll be AI assistance in some of it, but everything is blockchain time stamped. All data is anonymous. There's no user data collected. And so it's should produce the largest data set ever attempted for, study. And so, maybe all of this resorts back to chance, and we prove that it was all falsified studies. Obviously, I don't think that's what's going to happen, but that would be valuable as well. But hopefully we're going to all of a sudden have tens of thousands of sessions available to pick apart from every angle, and it's all open source. Every scientist on the planet can study it and pick it apart. And hopefully that does a little, gives a little push in opening people's minds that this is not just fringe. We need to really be taking a look at this stuff.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. So I want to reiterate the site that you are behind. So that's the telepathycenter.com. So folks want to check that out and the work that you're trying to do there, which is, sounds like very practical things people can try to have this kind of experience and gather data that would point in a direction to verify, validate that there is something here. So really, really meaningful.
And that's like I said, that's the science side. As you know, I'm like I said, I'm a practicing animist, and I come from a very heart-centered place. So that will be the next evolution is putting stuff on there for teaching, practice, meditation, and all the breath work techniques, everything that you can get everywhere else, but our twist on things, and hopefully a complete system that really gives people the frameworks to understand that this needs to be taken seriously, and then go practice and try it themselves.
Awesome.
I just want to chime in, Nathan. If we can get, remind me via DM the Telepathy Center so I can get everything in the show notes that will appear both in the YouTube description and the podcast, because I want to make sure everything that you guys are doing, that we get it all in there. And also, after Krys answers, I want to tackle this question if Nathan will yield time to the senator from New York. Go ahead, please, Krys.
Oh, check your mic one time. Yeah, there we go.
Check.
So the question was, what are we doing moving forward to help people understand?
I think that's right. How do we have a translation problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do we translate the way in which people are expecting this to go versus the way that it must, because this is just how that it actually is, right? There's a disconnect. There's a worldview disconnect. So how do you see us translating that?
Yeah. I see that. I think I posted earlier in the chat. I think that it kind of does start oftentimes with many of us who are not maybe schooled in esoteric teachings or things. I didn't watch sci-fi growing up. I didn't watch Close Encounters until I was an adult, after I had an experience that kind of freaked me out, to be honest, because there are very similar things that happened to me. Not necessarily that they were scary, but seeing that this was already there, and then I'm like, whoa, So my main point is that you have to, number one, deconstruct your own worldview. And I honestly think that is something that we all should do anyway. Whether we are, gonna look at UAPs, or whether we're gonna look at religion, or whether we're gonna look at what company we're working for. Deconstructing our own worldview is very hard to do, but we forget how much it's been constructed for us. And I think right now, in today's day and age, the conversations we're all having together are extremely relevant. My concern is how people are going to handle ontological shock moving forward, and how we address it and have frameworks to process this. Some people may do fine on their own, but even the level of information coming out outside of UAPs, just with the files, the Epstein files, and the war, and all of this stuff going on, everything is shifting so fast. I don't even think we know what we believe anymore. Do you understand? So I think deconstructing our own belief system, or reevaluating it, is maybe a different word if you want. That's important. Number two, destigmatizing. We have to destigmatize anomalous experiences. And I think that's where the military effort, and the train sighters, and, the politicians getting involved is important. But I think much more important is we have to start giving a voice to the experiencers themselves in the citizenry. And, it's not just about military observers, which is all great. But again, that almost takes it back to that nuts and bolts thing. Although many actually, Lucas, when Skywatcher started, coming out, I think there was a little bit of hope that we have, I'm going to be honest, and, really tough guys who are thinking about spiritual things. And, there's that desire to see an awakening amongst the population. And those military men were a great example of that, are a great example of that. So I do think that also could play a role. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be, I just think it matters. You know, it all matters. Female voices, male voices. And yeah, so deconstructing our worldview, destigmatizing the topic, and demystifying it, which is exactly what we're talking about. Is it really that mysterious? Even in your belief system. I mean, whether you pray, you contemplate, you hold beads in a rosary, all those things are about contemplation, meditation, prayer, you know, and just trying to demystify it. Because as a Christian, I didn't grow up as a Christian, but as an adult, I was a Christian. And you know, everything is woo, everything is scary, everything is fear-based. And I think that has absolutely got to stop. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be concerned about things. I mean, I'm more concerned about humans, to be honest. I mean, I think we are very manipulative as humans. I think language is actually a powerful way to manipulate others. And language, that thing you were talking about earlier, is that, you know, you said you were doing a deep dive, Lucas, is that, you know, it's just imagine a world where you can't manipulate with language because you're speaking telepathically and your impressions are what they are. I mean, I think there's a freedom to that. It's a little bit scary, but you know, that, so anyway, that's, I'll stop there.
No, that's terrific. I completely agree. And something you mentioned that I will reiterate before I want to pass over to Deb, and that the day and time that we find ourselves in is a discombobulating time. It is a time of deconstruction. The meaning-making structures that have held society together really well over the last century, those structures are crumbling. And I think most people see that now. There are many signposts that reveal this to us, that the way in which we thought the world worked and the way in which that you know, societies were ordered, like these things aren't really what we were taught. And so there's a lot of the lack of trust in our sort of states and our governments and our leaders, like is at an all-time high, and I think rightly so. So this is an opportunity. Like it does sound very chaotic, and I think many people will feel a sense of chaos if they just go through social media, right, and look at what's happening in the world. But through this time of chaos is a great opportunity for engagement, for along the lines of what you're talking about there. And 1992, thank you so much for that. It's really, really thoughtful. Let's read that comment. Nice taking a break from all the craziness in the world. Great panel tonight and great conversation. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Deb, I'm going to pass it over to you. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to weigh in on this because Deb may go in this direction to somewhere else. But to me, kind of like en masse, for people to have a deeper connection that departs from materialism, I thought of the Younger Dryas, you know, which was like, you know, 12,500, 12,800 years ago, something like that. And humans usually act based on need. I need something. So love, we've talked about this on the show before, love, fear, hate, that is what changes behavior the most. You know, enlightenment could be considered part of love, what Lucas has spoken about. So to me, en masse, for us to disconnect from materialism and to connect with this deeper meaning that what you've been talking about and Darren have been talking about literally for years now, what Lucas and Krys are speaking about, I believe it would take a Younger Dryas type event where we're stripped away of everything. Because if you listen to Joe Rogan, and even, I don't know if it was when he had on Jay Anderson, where they talked about, they believe that is how the power of the pyramids and their ability to move these massive stones and to construct these in a way that we can't even do today. You know, when you look at, you know, we covered recently on Cab about the, at the Serapeum, those big boxes that weigh 100 tons that they got, and we can't figure out how the hell they got them in. We can't figure out how they carved them out of one piece of granite because we don't have the tools. So some people think that the Younger Dryas destroyed the tools. You know, maybe not. Maybe it was intervention from an NHI, the folks that you guys are communicating with. I think there's two camps, and I don't know which camp is correct, but either way, they certainly had a deeper connection to what's important as a human being, as a being of the universe, than what we are today. And I don't think anything can destroy materialism unless it is literally taken away from us. It's not the most sweetest view that we're going to hear tonight, but that's my thought. So, Deb's, take it away, my friend.
Well, I wanted to just add a couple other
Please.
things that would really help if I can.
Please.
One, if people like Bill Maher want to continue to make jokes when they're talking about this topic and not do research, that's certainly not helping. One of the things he said was, now serious people are looking at this. That's an incorrect statement. Serious people have been looking at this for a very long time, including very educated, very intelligent people. And second of all, people like Russell Targ have prepared things for people to use so that they can actually detect, they can actually feel that ability within themselves. He has a psychic card test so that you can sort of identify when you're getting it right, how that feels. And yeah, it's out there on the web. I haven't looked at it in a while, but yeah, so there are people in this topic have been trying to make that change for some time. They're the ones who are trying to educate people and trying to get people to recognize this. And that's unfortunate that the people who have the loudest voice are not always accurate.
I agree, Deb. Sorry, because I heard it too. And he also had to, of course, throw, a probe joke or something in there. And I know I shouldn't be so woke. I don't know, but it bothers me because I have friends who have gone through that, and people I know that I believe have, and it's just, again, that's the stigmatization. It's like they can't do one without the other. And I do think, to be fair, there's a place for humor and comedy in our world. Absolutely. But, I just think, yeah, I agree with you, Deb.
So I'm going to get to my question now. Now that I have to keep saying these things, it's so frustrating that every time we come on a show, something else happens where I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. But, okay. So I had a few human initiated contact experiences. Meditation is a very profound one. I had some very deep experiences, some of which were shared by other people who meditated, which is a great indication of fact that it's a shared thing. But I've had a couple negative ones, and I think we should talk about those briefly. One of those experiences was simply the sense of, I should not be doing this and I need to hide, essentially. That was the message I got.
Was that when we asked you to be on Cab? Just
no,
kidding. Sorry.
It was after. It was after.
Crowd.
Anyhow, and the other one, and I think I told you about this one, DJ. I went outside. I tried to do it because I'd had a previous experience where I went up, looked at the sky, and saw an orb do an L shape, which is pretty interesting. But I went out this time trying to do human initiated contact, and I had an energy drain, complete and total energy drain. Like I felt wiped out, like I needed to lay down immediately. So I just thought maybe you guys should speak a little bit to potentially not great experiences that people have had with this.
Real quickly, I just want to let Lulu Bell, we have you starred. So after Deb is finished, we'll get your question, then we'll go to Boston Bia. So please go ahead.
I'll go ahead and start because this is, I can't ignore this. And I think, kind of weird that I totally ignored this. I kind of implied earlier, I really haven't had negative experiences. But an important thing to note is in September of 2024, we had already moved to Arizona. So all my sightings were in San Diego, where we were living and renting a home. All my kids live there now, but we had lived here. We went back to visit. Now, keep in mind, prior to my experiences in 2021, I was developing neurocognitive issues, some neck collapsing, some trips and falls, shaking of hands, my cognition totally wiped out. I really haven't been able to work like I used to. I used to run clinics and everything collapsed, like I said, mentally, physically, all that. But I rebuilt it up, was doing better, moved here, and we went home in September, and I had made an appointment. I had spoken to somebody who's working in a, UAP watch group or a show or whatever you want to call it. I won't be specific. And we had connected, and I said, I have a place where I think that you could, a hotspot. And so I reached out to my landlords in San Diego, and because nobody was occupying it at the time. And I said, can we meet and talk this weekend? And because I never told them I was having all these experiences at their house, and they were really good friends of ours. So I wanted to explain to them. And then this group said they were interested in learning about the location. So I was going to try and make that connection. September, 21st, I think it was. A week before, I had my second MRI from the military. The first one was civilian. I still had white matter disease. I've had that since 2021. No one knows why. They said it wasn't affecting me. It was not causing any of my symptoms, according to them. I got cleared on September 12th, 2024 again. You're all good. Everything's fine. September 21st, go to San Diego. Went to my sighting spot, to the canyon, because the house. So me, my husband, and my daughter went there, and we wanted to go. At the same time, I always saw him. Wanted to go see him. Went for a walk. Didn't see anything. Recorded, it was cloudy. Recorded, like a helicopter flying over, all that. Whatever, fine. Went home that night to my son. Then my husband and I and the dogs went to our hotel room. And at some point in the night, I had a seizure. Never have had it. It is, to my knowledge, I've never had a seizure in my life. I had 3 seizures that weekend, back to back. And ended up in the hospital. Well, I ended up going to the VA once, and went to the VA. They dismissed me on some meds. Ironically, the whole week, I had no knowledge of what I was doing. I was walking and talking and not forming memories. So I didn't go pick up my meds because I didn't think I needed them. So I ended up in the hospital. So there is this question that will, sits in my mind about some of the neurological conditions, some of the white matter disease. And, was there some sort of episode that happened because I was trying to make a connection, or I just don't know. It's just so hard for me to ignore it. Again, positive side of it is, maybe that's why I was struggling for years before. Maybe it revealed it to me. So this is kind of how I tend to look at it. Maybe I was having seizures at night because they were all nocturnal, so no one knew. And I ended up getting on meds, and now my cognition has improved over the last few years. And I was able to, so there's 2 sides to it again. I just do want to make, there are people that research the cognitive effects and the medical effects. I can't say whether or not, it's 100% accurate or not, but that did happen to me. So
we have good comments here in the chat that we're going to have to get to. But Deb, you may have wanted to pose that question to Lucas as well. So go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of my experiences are very positive. I've had 2 that I can recall that were very scary, with involving grays coming at while I was sleeping, and then the one is was basically in my bed, and as I was falling asleep, I felt something in the room with me. This was before I was really in any sort of deep practice with any of this stuff. And I've had weird, experiences throughout my life, seen lots of weird stuff in the sky, and times when I saw 4 stars dancing around from horizon to horizon one time, or across the horizon. So it's not like I have never had anything weird happen, but the scary parts, the one was as I was falling asleep, I felt something in the room with me. I opened my eyes and saw 3, what you would describe, I guess, as grays. But it was more like a green, dark greenish brown skin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
that.
And then they had these really tight suits on. And there was a taller one behind them, and as I was approaching, I couldn't move my in my bed, like I was terrified. Um, and I was like through like gritted teeth, I kept saying, "You are not them," and like I don't know what that meant, don't know why I was saying it. But then I blacked out as I like got closer to the bed, and one funny detail that well, funny, one weird detail there is when I was trying to like look up at their faces, um, it looked like I was looking into a forest. Like there was no face there, and I was in my room, so it didn't make any sense. But it was like I was just looking off into a forest, and there was no heads there. It was really, really confusing. Um, so then I blacked out and woke up like 3 hours later, um, covered in sweat, still saying the same thing through my gritted teeth. My, my every muscle in my body was sore because I had clearly been like tensed up for who knows how long. Um, but that's really the only really negative experience that I would say, and it's terrifying. Even then, like that's one of those things. Like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not. There's all kinds of negative stuff that happens, and I think sometimes
Okay.
it depends who reach out. But what I was gonna say is sometimes I don't know that like was that really that bad or was it like just scary because like we abduct animals and do things for their good and we would think it's very good and to them it's terrifying and scary. And so like I know it's a violation of your sovereignty and that's very like that's its own issue. But is it truly a bad experience? I don't know.
You know what? I had this revelation when you guys were answering this question, and I think you'll like this one, Nathan. I think NHI adores human consciousness, and as long as we're accessing it outside of our bodies, away from the body, we're fine. But if it gets too physical, then we're going to start having issues because they do not respect the human body, including the human brain.
Well, see, I think this also gets into like, see, when you say NHI, yeah, that's like one thing, but like what I think I reach out to in a meditative space and what comes and like an orb that shows up, that doesn't feel like the same thing. That doesn't feel like what you would normally term NHI or the grays that showed up in my room. So like that's the other thing is like how many different things are we talking about here? How many different things are we interacting with? How many if you accept this as a reality, there are probably thousands upon thousands of factions and different opinions between visiting NHI. I mean, it gets so complicated to try to put it in these boxes, I think gets dangerous in itself.
Yeah, if you don't mind me adding on to that, and I don't know if it's part of this, fact that we feel like we've made this connection. So you obviously, it's like any human relationship. When you have a form of friendship with somebody or something, even if somebody has something bad to say about them, you're going to kind of like, you have their back, right? And I kind of feel that way a little bit too. But in the sense that I don't want to continue to make the same mistakes, well, that I've always made in my life, number one, but that humanity continues to make and classify things or groups in a way that we cannot really identify or people, So, I mean, we just because there's grays, I mean, I'm Spanish American or whatever. I mean, there's a billion Spanish Americans and we all act different and we all behave different and we all have different morals.
There she is. What's up, Bia? Like, what's up?
So, I think we've made that mistake so many times that it's not something I want to do again. And it doesn't mean I won't change my mind if I encounter something that is harmful to me or dangerous. We need to respond appropriately. That's I mean, whatever that is, but whether it be with love or with protection or whatever. But and then avoidance. I mean, if it was a wild animal, to me it's like, is it a lion or is it a cat? It's different. They're all different. So I don't know, maybe it's just weird. But I'd like to look at it that way. I'd like to try and make sure that I'm not judging a group of beings or NHI or orbs or black squares, jellyfish. I see all kinds of stuff. I have no idea what they are. And maybe 3 months ago, you could have convinced me that maybe our technology had advanced enough. But at this point in time, where we're at in this country, I absolutely do not believe we have technology capable of doing anything I've seen, because frankly, what we're doing right now is quite embarrassing. So.
Yeah, I agree. These guys have long heard me say that I would bet my life that Tic Tac incident was not any creation of any government on Earth, and was and then it's backed up by David Grush and Lou Elizondo and everybody else that says we don't know what that is, and I think they would know. So Lulu Bell is asking, we're going to get to the listener questions now, so make these kind of quick hitters because we're kind of running short on time. Lucas, did you think they were friendly? And we're talking about those entities that had you frozen in your bed, either physically or self-initiated. Well, I'm not moving from here.
Yeah, that's, I don't, they didn't feel friendly at the time, but again, that was based in fear, and I don't necessarily know at the point. I like Chris's comment about like a lion. Like, a lion is dangerous to us, but it's not necessarily like mean or unfriendly. It's just like you don't want to get eaten. Like,
it's programmed in that way. So it's programmed to do what it does. You know, it's not intentionally, you know.
It doesn't exist within our, like, you know, moral boundaries. It doesn't have the same mindset. So like, it just is not the same creature as we are.
Bigfoot's a different story, but no, we won't go there.
Yeah.
But I, just to let you guys know, I went, I'm going to go to the starred questions right now. I went to my dental hygienist the other day. She told me she's from right here in Colorado Springs. Her mother worked at one of the kind of top secret facilities here in Colorado Springs. And her mom looked up driving to work, saw a craft. She said it looked like the Pepsi symbol kind of was opening up. And the next thing she knew, it was 3 hours later and she was still driving to work. So that's one thing. And then her aunt and uncle's son, her nephew, he is 13 now. This was going back, I want to say 8 years ago, and said that so he would have been like kindergarten, first grade-ish. And they said that multiple visits to his room where they could see some evidence of entry through the window or screen or something. And then one night they finally woke up when he was talking, because only he was talking. Nothing was talking to him. And when they went in the room, it was gone. So it happens, folks. And that's what Lucas is telling you about. So here we go. This one is from Lulu Bell. Hope this is not a strange question. So one of you can take this, whomever it's most resonant with. Did any of you have panic attacks after any of your different experiences? I hope you understand my question. Not sure if I worded it right. Actually, both you guys can get this one. It's pretty open and shut question there. Panic attacks? No?
I didn't have anything like that. Nope.
Krys? No? Krys on mute is saying no. Now, Tets is from Ireland. Hello, Tets, and welcome to the chat here at Colin Albians. It's a pleasure to have you. He says, I have sang and UFOs turned up. He believes that he is in a hot spot. So a lot of things are happening here. Tets also saying in his yard, I guess this happened in his garden, an alien forgot to turn off its two-way monitor on its orange orb that I recorded in my garden. You can see its face in it. Wow, Tets, you know what? We might have to get you on the show to talk. Not only to hear your Irish accent, but also to hear of your experiences with NHI. So reach out to me on Twitter. I'm at DJ_calling_being. What else do we have here? We've got one from Rocker Chick. Rocker Chick says, sometimes when I'm looking up at the stars and hoping to see a UFO, I will see a flash and it freaks me out. I feel like something took my picture.
Flash bulbs.
Flash bulbs, very common.
Okay.
Very common.
Okay. There you go.
Eric and I, my husband and I got 82 a couple months ago. I mean, literally in the same spot, we counted 82. We count them out loud. The most was like 32 or something once. And we're like, I wonder if we can beat it. 82.
That's
blinks.
amazing.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Of flashbulbs.
It was insane. And I think my husband honestly probably has more of the connection that I really do. He can get into meditative states, altered states of consciousness. He gets the warm hands, the tingling. He had an awakening experience last summer. So he was not really into any of this until he had his awakening experience wasn't related to UAPs. He just went into meditation and had a spontaneous, probably a Kundalini experience. And now I'm telling you, this guy goes out and they just show up. I mean, so there is something to that state of consciousness that you can enter.
Well,
it's harder for me.
I think this connects back to something Deb said. In the like the Yoga Sutras, I forget which stage it is, but there's one of the stages of meditation where it states very plainly right there that an orb commonly appears above a practitioner at this stage of meditation. It's like, this is all already written down. Like, what are we doing here? They already figured this out. So I don't know. So that makes perfect sense to me. That, like, I don't think that's the thing. Like, we talk about it in the UFO communities and stuff like this, but like, these aren't UFOs necessarily, and like, it's so much deeper than aliens and what we boil it down to, I think.
Okay, what are they in your estimation?
You know that huge diagram of the layered nested realities with all the layers of watchers and different.
Send me that diagram, because I've got stuff
Tibetan.
I want to send both of you in private chat. I want to send you at that NHI video done in '97 that was taken out supposedly at S4. I believe this to be a real being that we're looking at, and I want you two to look at it and see what you think, that you find it to be real.
I don't think I've seen that video.
Huh?
I don't know if I've seen that video.
I'll send it to you.
I may have seen like stills from it if it's the one I'm thinking of, but I'd love to see that video.
Yeah,
and as far as I know, I haven't seen a being. All of them have been orbs or craft or shape-shifting phenomena. But again, as you go back and unearth your story, there are some things that Deb, as a woman, I'm concerned about, and this, it's not really talked about much. As a matter of fact, it came up on Jesse Michaels the other day when he was talking to the gentleman with the implants, and they talked about women, and it just brushed right over it. And not many of us are comfortable having this conversation, but I very specifically remember in the 90s, I was active duty at the time. My husband was as well. We were in Oakland, California, and I was pregnant with my son. And my husband worked, he had just gotten out, so he was working like Frito-Lay or something. He'd leave at 1 a.m. and he'd leave, and then I would, fall back asleep or whatever. I obviously woke up when he'd leave. And for months, I was having sleep paralysis. I had no idea how to put words to that until now in 2021. And I forgot about him until I went back to that, till I remembered. And I was pregnant with my son at the time, and I had a very traumatic birth. I almost died in that birth. And they said if I was Navy at the time. That's why I'm a disabled vet. They really screwed my life up as far as the birth and delivery. But what was happening to me prior to that makes me wonder. Like every night I was in sleep. I could hear footsteps coming up the stairs, and I'd go into sleep paralysis. Again, I'm not saying they're NHI or whatever, but these anomalous experiences that you just dismiss. And then when you go back and realize, okay, am I open to another world or other things? Or, it's just like, sometimes I just try to tell people, we didn't have microscopes. We didn't have telescopes. You didn't know that you had a bunch of bacteria crawling through your gut all the time and participating in your life. And now it's filtered, our world is filtered, and maybe the filters are shifting and our ability to expand those filters are shifting. Or they've always been there, like Lucas, I grew up, as a child, 1970s, my dad and I had discussions about ESP and dreams all the time. I was like 5 years old. I have encyclopedias that we would look at. And like, I never ever, it just went away for decades, you know, and now it's like all here in my face. And it's part of what I think I'm called to do now. And I would have never connected the dots on my own. These things have meaning in my world. There's ways to make meaning out of this and to help us move forward, to help humanity move forward, to expand their consciousness. And not in a, you know, I don't want people to join religions or cults or any of that stuff. Like, I don't buy into any of that. Like, find your own place where you can love yourself. I think that's part of it. We don't even know how to love ourselves. How could I love my husband? How could I love my kids? How could I love my neighbor? I didn't love myself. Those are messages I think that are important to take away from this.
Yeah, what my big takeaway, you said your husband worked at Frito-Lay, and I love Fritos, particularly now they have the low sodium, so they're not quite as salty, and I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed of that, Nathan.
You shouldn't be ashamed.
So, good.
The Doritos were free for years.
All kidding aside, though, the reason I want you guys to watch this video of this creature that you're going to see, it's full motion. It looks like it would be in a very, very secure facility. You'll see that the timestamp is at the bottom as they're communicating non-verbally with the creature. And then it has a physical episode. And I think you're going to connect with it and say, this is not an animatronic thing. I'm actually looking at an actual living creature here, in the same way that people look at the Patterson-Gimlin film of Bigfoot from 1967, and you're looking at this creature walking across the sandbar and it turns, and I know I'm looking at a real creature here. You can't fake that. You couldn't fake it in 1967. You might be able to fake it with AI now. So because you guys have had these communications, I'm going to send you that video. I think that'll be interesting. But Ruthie Robles has a question here. Let's go with Lucas on this. Do you think our mind as a child is most prone to having experiences because we do not yet have the fear of being misunderstood? Once our mind is programmed, we lose the imagination. What's your response to that?
Yeah, I don't know if it's always the fear of being misunderstood, but it is fear. Yeah. Everybody probably forms their own reason to fear, but yeah, that's like what I think is exactly what happens is you get hammered into these boxes of what to expect, and now you just don't, the possibility of anything else happening is gone.
Yeah, the construct. It's really whatever construct we're raised in, and certainly children, which is also the scary thing. Again, it's like the yin and the yang. Is that children are so influenceable because of the fact that they're designed to be programmed, essentially, right? That is, our early mind, and we can put beliefs into them that are real or not, or constructs. And if they haven't had that yet, I think they're more open to it. Or if they're just being somatic, trusting their body and their intuition, which is something I think we've also forgot about. I never understood that. And I could never connect, again, maybe my neurodivergency, but so rational thinking and all this logic that I tried to, but then I had this other creative, playful side that was full of emotions and tears and empathy and sadness and all this other stuff, and I couldn't connect the dots on them. But when you are young and people shift when you're young, you're able to start think through those, disassociate. I would do that as a child. Didn't know that's what I was doing. I would lay on my back, look at the ceiling, and imagine walking over the ceiling and I was disassociating from my environment. And I was probably doing out-of-body type experiences, but without knowing it, But yeah, the constructs. And I was lucky. I grew up in a very open household, I will say. We read everything. Books were everywhere. All kinds of books. Books I shouldn't have read as a young girl, I read. My mom was an avid reader. My dad loved encyclopedias. We would talk intellectual things. We would debate. We could talk about anything in our house, even if we disagreed with it. We would fight more than anything. Makes everybody else uncomfortable around us. But I think that's important because there was this you know, ability for me to think out. We were Catholic, grew up Catholic, but I still had openness to explore things outside, and not everybody has that permission growing up. And my dad lives with us. He's seen all of the stuff. I mean, he's been around for all of it, and he's 82. My aunt is 92. I'm going to say this one thing. She's still alive, his oldest sister. And I recently interviewed her. She's here in Arizona, kicking it, smart, brilliant. She was mute until she was 8. She just started speaking out of nowhere at 8 years old. And she would go to school, and she literally said, I scared the teachers because I knew what was in the books before I read them. Okay.
Wow.
My grandfather went to the school for the deaf and blind in New Mexico. So this was probably 1908, 1910. I'm planning to do some of that research. But my aunt says he wasn't, well, they're all hard of hearing, but I don't think it was that he was deaf. I think he was mute, because they keep using the word muta, and that's what she was. So I am wondering, here we go, this whole nonverbal ability.
Right. Telepathy tapes.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. And I, like, the dots are connecting. The family, all her, she has a huge family here. They've all had experiences. So there is something deeper to this, and it brings meaning to your family, even having these discussions with them. I think we got to take that and destigmatize it, have the conversations around the dinner table, and learn what people have experienced. And then, you know, do your own research, make yourself comfortable with whatever faith system or belief system you need to align it with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, Krys, for people that feel constricted by religion to study this, look at Dr. Diana Pasulka. She is a practicing Catholic, and she's studying this all day long. So you can't, or you should consider not letting religious teachings keep you. And Nathan obviously went to school for this, you know, to the master's degree level, to keep you from studying something that's outside of what is written in those religious texts. I wanted to get Boston Bia in here before we break for the evening, because she hasn't got to speak in a while, and we're getting great questions. We're going to get a couple more from the chat and then have like a final round. But go ahead, Boston Bia, final.
Sure. Final thoughts? Is that what you're saying?
Final question.
Final question.
We'll
okay. I was like, wait a minute.
No, final thoughts will be after this. All right. We got to get
All right. Sounds good.
Hey,
all right. Settle down there, homeboy.
Hey.
So, Lucas, my question was for you. I was curious to hear of your most memorable experience.
Other than meeting me. Just kidding. Sorry.
That is hard to pick. Experience and sighting are two different things. My most impactful experience was like we don't have enough time for me to explain it all. It was like an hour-long, very deep trance experience. Like nothing else has ever come close to this. Where I didn't feel like I ever like left my body, like an out-of-body experience, but I just dissolved into like just felt like I was connected. I was just consciousness. Like it was just, so I can briefly explain it. Basically, I was first, like, I closed my eyes and a tunnel appeared, and which is normal for me. That's kind of my normal process is I have this tunnel that goes, and I kind of send myself down it when I want to go out of body. So that was normal. But this was much slower this time, and I was like kind of walked down the tunnel, and then all of a sudden I started hearing music all around me and sounds like, actually what kicked it off was the most pure sounding water droplet sound, like a drop hitting like a water, like a pristine lake, and that's droplet sound it makes. But it was the most pure sounding thing I've ever heard. And then there was like this, what I think people would normally describe as like the choir of angels sound of music.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it didn't sound like anything you ever heard, like a representation of that. It was like a much more pure version of it. Um, and I slowly walked down this hallway. It was mostly black. I couldn't see much. Um, and I was stopped between, or at I think there were 12 doorways. I lost count of how many there were, but I would get to the door, and then I would hear in my head, "Do you remember?" And I would say yes, and then I would hear the door crack like a lock, unlock, and then like creak open, and then I would walk down that, past there, and the same thing happened slowly over and over again. And as I'm walking down the hallway, it felt like there was a physical substrate like being pushed into my cells, like in between all of my cells and like woven into me. And like it was, it was so profound. Like I don't know how to explain all the different feelings. There were times when it felt like it hit like resistance, and I would hear like relax, and then there would be like a louder hum, and it would like push through, and then there would be like this release of energy in my body. Um, so I got through all the doorways, and obviously I'm cutting out so much of this. So much. Um, but I got to the last door and I felt a different feeling. It felt like very reverent, like extremely reverent. And I felt like my whole body like shifted into like more like a right position. I was laying down, but it just got more like straight. Um, and then as that door opened, I heard "get ready" and and then relax again, and just like it was like calming me. And it was just black, like in the space behind the door, and then I saw a like crack in the blackness, like just light coming from a crack, and it kind of looked like a door opened there, and I saw a being. I call it a being. It was just light, but like it seemed like it had form and shape, and it kind of like what I call it like kind of like showed half of its face. What I would think is where its face was.
Mm.
And when it did that, I like had this immediate recognition. I was like, that is me. And I like I don't know. It was just like this most strangely profound thing. I was like, what? I'm looking at myself, and it's very confusing. And but then like it reacted when it like felt like this immense joy when that happened. All the reverence dropped away, and like it was like this immense playful energy after that. And then it fell backwards, and it like stepped away from me and opened up, and I saw. It gives me chills, and like it makes me tear up. Was the most like it was all of existence just like laid out from the most like grand macro scale down to the most tiny quantum particle weaving in and out of everything. And like you'd see like evolutions of like life like blipping past, and like it was like it was like seeing all of existence, just how it all danced and worked in perfect unison together. Um, and I like stood there and watched that, and I like heard I forget exactly what it said. Something like take your time. Um, and then after that, um, I got put into some. I was it asked then after I kind of got done. It was like, do you want to go for a ride? And and I was like, yeah, let's go for a ride. And I at that point I felt like there was like an orb around me, and it felt like I like heard again that humming, and it was like powering up, and it felt like it felt like a suit like engulfed my body. But then it like was building up, and then it all calmed back down around me, and I heard the integration has to like, or I don't know, it wasn't the integration, some sort of like merger has to happen in the physical realm first or something like that. And the, and then I came out of the experience and was just like, holy shit, what just happened? Um, but the interesting part is that before that, I had been going through this very weird body like realignment, and my spine was very crooked my whole life. My hips are out of place. I had a lump in my back.
Scoliosis.
Yeah. So that was all starting to like get a little better. And through that whole experience, my body cracked and turned, twisted during the whole thing, and it's still ongoing now. But I'm curious if that integration process or whatever it is my body realigning to be
Like
able to
Chris
do.
Bledsoe, your homie, being
Did he
healed
have?
by he had the Crohn's
Oh yeah,
disease. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, and even like Sherman talks about like you know, the channels clearing and like then the beings he was communicating with being surprised that the water being could communicate at this level, and like I thought that's funny they call him a water being.
For
Yeah.
people in the audience that kind of that don't, I'm gonna really oversimplify this to say that these two that you're seeing here, Lucas and Chris, are basically like, it's like they're connecting to a VPN that connects them to another network. And the only thing different, you know, between them and you is that, or us, is that we haven't done the meditative work to be able to connect. And these NHI and the physical craft are using that same network, which is how they can connect with them. So that's really what it is. And I know I'm oversimplifying it, but for people to understand, well, how do they do it? Well, it's basically they're putting themselves in a state where they can communicate. So let me pass it to Money Nathan for closing or whatever you.
Yeah, I mean,
That got away from me.
no, it's all
no,
good.
that was great, man.
No, thank you for sharing. That was great. Thank you.
Yeah.
We're really lucky when we have
There you
great guests, and we have great guests all the time. And when we find ourselves in this spot, it's roughly around this time of the show, where we're like, oh man, I wish we had another couple hours because it's such a great conversation. And I want to thank you both for bringing that. It's we've touched on a lot of the areas that I definitely wanted to cover, and I'm really grateful that you've spoken to that. And you know, Deb bringing up the sort of threatening side or the dangerous side or the bad encounters. I mean, those do happen. I think people do need to be careful, and there are different phrases and terms people use, like spiritual hygiene. You hear that talked about quite a lot. I think a lot of it, what boils down to is, and Chris, you alluded to this sort of inner journey, and Lucas, you did as well. It's a very personal. You go inward, a personal connection, and that's something I find that we just don't know how to do. Like we've not been taught how to do this. And
one day working on it.
yeah, right. So I mean that's the beautiful thing about the work that you guys are here to teach, right? That this is doable, and the benefits. I think the simplistic way of looking at this is, oh, I could do this and I can see things in the sky. Like I bet you would both say that's the least interesting aspect of this practice, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So maybe let's leave on that. So tell us a little bit about the way in which this practice has changed your life and has kind of changed the way that you look at the world and reality and your relationships and all those kinds of things. What has it done for you on a personal level? Start with Chris.
Oh wow, I can't even recognize myself or anyone around me for prior to 2021 and now. It's really just changed kind of everything. You know, it again, it's deep inner work, so it's painful. I felt certainly very alone for the first 3 years. You know, people in your family don't, you know, my family is amazing. They support me. My dad sees it. My Eric sees it. My family have all seen what I see, but they don't have that same, you know, impact that it has on me. So you're very alone. And then also I was just going through my own things, you know, in my mind. So our marriage was deeply impacted over the years, but out of that came healing, which is like the crazy thing, you know. Gosh, there's so much I could talk about. I feel like life is much more magical again. I feel like life is exciting and transmutable, and you know, like a kid, my curiosity came back. My desire to learn came back. You know, I was never a great student in high school. I was like the partier, I walked around with a bullet in my jacket and drank silver bullets. That's what I did in high school. My dad was, of course,
I dig that. You could have been at my high school.
So but I obviously I'm a learner. You know, I didn't acknowledge that because I you know, and then I went back to college, and there's just so, I cannot even express how much it changed my life. The biggest thing, the magical thing, I think that people should, if they really don't know where to start, just start looking at synchronicities. You know, you might want to call them a coincidence, but if you do that, it will shift everything, because you start realizing the whole universe communicates with you in different ways. And I know we need to wrap up, but I'll tell one quick story here. And this is, I'll call it an experience. So this represents 2021, during early stages of these experiences. I was upstairs vacuuming, which is very rare for me, by the way. I was upstairs vacuuming, and it's because I wasn't working now. And when I worked, my husband used to do all that. For some reason, I was like in a meditative state, vacuuming, and I had this weird flashback to Lucille Ball. Okay. I don't know. There must be a Lucille Ball episode of her vacuuming. I don't know. But in that moment, I said to myself, you know what? If this stuff is real, I'm going to see something that has to do with Lucille Ball. It's soon. Like, you know, I don't know. Kind of, I guess throwing out a fleece is the biblical term of that. I'm not sure exactly what I did. But hours later, I went downstairs. My husband was in the backyard digging with the dogs. My daughter's dog was over. And digging in the garden, okay, she dug up a piece of paper. I walked over and grabbed the piece of paper, and it's a Lucille Ball rose.
Wow.
I didn't even
Incredible.
that day. So listen to the messages, look at synchronicity. Carl Jung, psychologist, talks about it. It's connected. And I think that's the magical moments. We see them all the time now. Numbers, symbols, you know, I think we took the magic away from our life. We've stripped a lot of rituals and symbolism from our world. And I think that they can be meaningful to people. So that I'll wrap up with that.
That was
Not
awesome.
much else
Thank
to
you.
say. That's exactly it. It just brings back curiosity, and I feel, yeah, you feel like a kid again. It's every day there's something to go do and learn about and be excited about. It's such a wide subject too. Like, you can't ever get bored. Like, there's so much to look into and go explore or get better at or learn. And like, it's fascinating. I don't know how everybody's not obsessed with it.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Debs, final thought, question, closing, whatever you got to do.
So the question of who are they, that one stuck with me while we were talking about some things. And when Lucas talked about meeting himself, that's when I was jumping out of my chair going, that's the one I was talking about. If you get into the state, you meet yourself. And someone asked in the chat, what is NHI? It's non-human intelligence. And if I had to guess, that's what we are before we're born and after. That's us. All of it really stems that it's all us. And like Krys said, they are not all good. There was a reason I was told to hide. Not all of us are good now when we're human, you know, so let's be honest. But there are some, of course, that are good. And hopefully people will get to that state where they too will meet a light being that says, I'm you. And in my case, I don't know if this happened to you, Lucas. My light being said, I'm not only you, but I'm also your ancestor, which is an interesting aspect that, like, we're not even ready to understand that. So thank you guys for coming so that we could touch on these really deep topics. And I appreciate that we are all very serious people, except for maybe DJ, talking about these topics. Not serious. You're serious. It's good.
Thank you so much. My dog's making noises. I just wanted to say thank you guys for having us on and sharing our experiences. And
wait, we're not to that part yet. We have another We got one more person to say bye to you first.
This is really funny,
Boston
Krys.
Bia, and then me.
My dog.
Talking about synchronicities, Krys. I have my cat clawing my back because
Boston Bia, get yours in there, and then
Yes.
we'll.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for sharing your experiences, and it's been amazing. So thanks again for coming on. Take care.
And finally, Lucas, all these Bigfoot researchers are seeing orbs associated with their experiences with Bigfoot in the woods. Do you have any just quick thoughts on that?
I think it's all part of the same phenomenon. Yeah. What was I just told recently? I can't remember who told me this. I had a long discussion with somebody recently about how they think the Bigfoot is part of the healing Fae creatures. And I can't remember exact. I'll have to send you the reasoning, but I couldn't argue with it. It seemed like a good argument. So something to look into.
There's a lot of paranormality there. I'll get with you guys on DM so we can share links and videos, and I want to promo. Please send me any of your stuff so I can put it in the show notes tonight and get it out on podcast plus so that people can connect it with us, can find you. Thank you very much for sharing these. We're going to get Jonathan back on, Jonathan on for real, and Jared, and then maybe we can just have you guys join them and we'll have our kind of original panel. If you guys want to come back, it's your option. All right. Oh, look at this from Lulu Bell and her husband. Oh my God. The kind of love and that we get from you guys is what makes us want to keep doing this. This is what's great. This is why you start a YouTube channel, is to have conversations and give yourself things to think about. So on behalf of Money Nathan and Debs and the chat, and of course Boston Bia, we will say peace out, one love, and we will see you down the road.
Bye guys. Thank you.
Thank you all again.